All
right, folks, there's no question that the year-ago assault on Capitol was a national disgrace and a national calamity. I don't think there's anybody out there who would disagree with that. For my part, I fervently wish we could just move on. Let's get to January 7th and not linger on January 6th. Of course, this is not going to happen. Now, we're going to discuss all this evening. We have Senator Ron Johnson from Wisconsin, and we will have our panels later in the show. But let's not forget, we still have a bill to kill, a rabid inflation to vanquish, a Mexican border to bolster, as well as a faltering national security posture after the Afghanistan catastrophe, and in the next week or so, a possible confrontation with Vladimir Putin in the Ukraine. These are today's problems, and they're going to be tomorrow's problems, regardless of one's opinion about last January 6th. Now, as I have said before, I fervently wish President Trump had not spoken to the rally that day, but he did. Now, he did not directly incite violence. He did urge a peaceful protest. That stuff gets scant attention, and also scant attention. The FBI has found no evidence of any grand scheme or conspiracy regarding President Trump or anybody near him. This was not an insurrection, but it was a damaging riot. To my way of looking at things, this January 6th investigating committee is essentially an anti-Trump, anti-GOP fishing expedition. It is completely one-sided. Nobody wants to explain what happened to the Capitol Police or why they were completely unprepared, sending only 200 of their ranks, though they have over 2,000 officers, or why did Nancy Pelosi call in the National Guard, or why is New York socialist AOC making ludicrous claims that, I'll quote, "we came close to half of the House nearly dying," utter nonsense. But pollster Scott Rasmussen finds that 72% of voters disapprove of the Trump supporters who broke into the U.S. Capitol. And that disapproval includes 59% of those who prefer Trump-like policies, 63% of conservatives, and 63% of Republicans. So that's the warning. Meanwhile, I believe President Trump's response today to Joe Biden's attack on him, that the Biden Democrats would much rather talk about Jan 6 than their failures on open borders and disastrous energy and unconstitutional mandates and devastating school closures, inflation, and, of course, the unraveling of foreign policy. I think Mr. Trump's exactly right. Biden wants to deflect and distract from his failed agenda and the unraveling of his presidency. That's his ulterior motive. Meanwhile, Mr. Biden, the Democrats are really spending more time talking about nationalizing presidential elections rather than getting to the bottom of some of the difficult questions regarding last Jan 6. Chuck Schumer, as always, taking his cue from socialist AOC, he now wants to end the 60-vote filibuster Senate process in order to pass a radical election law that would stop voter IDs, continued unlimited mail-in ballots, and avoid cleaning up cluttered election registrations, like dead people, and many other things. You know, when I grew up, when voting ended, it ended. Today, it seems like voting never ends. It's like saying there's no longer 3 periods to a hockey game or 4 quarters to football and basketball. If you don't get the results you want, you just keep playing and playing and playing. And I think most common sense folk thinks endless elections should be stopped. But the woke Democrats want to overrun state legislatures for their own ends and keep those mail-in ballots and harvesting with no ID going forward. That's what they want. In other words, make no mistake about it, Democratic Party is using the Jan 6 riot in order to undermine the integrity and constitutionality of sound election reform. I believe that is their agenda. Doesn't excuse the rioting, but I think that's their political agenda. Now, before I quit the riff tonight, I want to make one more quick point, unrelated to Jan 6. Driven by radical left teachers' unions across the country, school closings, places like Atlanta, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Detroit, especially Chicago, those school closings have sprung up again. Not only do these radical left unions want to teach woke critical race theory garbage in their schools and keep parents out of the curriculum, they don't want to work. Never do. This is an old song over the past 2 years. They shake down federal, state, and local governments for more and more money in return for less and less work. And here they go again, despite the overwhelming science that says schools should remain open to help the kids. So, think of this. Now's the time for a Reagan moment. Governors, mayors, county executives, and whoever else should fire any striking teachers, period. Full stop. Just fire them the way Reagan fired the striking air traffic controllers 40 years ago. And Reagan replaced them with non-union folks who wanted to work, and striking teachers can and should be replaced with qualified non-union teachers who are willing to work and actually help kids. We need a Reagan moment. Biden will never do it. The blue state mayors and governors won't either. That's too bad. The kids are our future. How about America first for our future? That's my riff this evening.